First contact and subjugation. The Kaldarian warships appeared without warning on a quiet Thursday morning. 7 massive vessels, each larger than the International Space Station, arranged themselves in a perfect heptagon formation above Earth. Their hulls gleamed with an iridescent blue-black sheen that seemed to absorb and distort light around them, creating an unsettling visual effect against the backdrop of our pale blue planet. For 2 days, they maintained position, silent and observing. Humanity collectively held its breath. Military installations worldwide went to high alert, while civilian populations oscillated between panic and fascination. Social media exploded with theories. Religions proclaimed either apocalypse or salvation, and governments scrambled to establish protocols for humanity's first confirmed extraterrestrial contact. Captain Maya Chen stood rigid in the United Earth Defense Force headquarters beneath Geneva. At 38, her weathered face told the story of a military career spanning conflicts across 3 continents. None of that experience had prepared her for this moment. "Still no response to our transmissions," announced Lieutenant Diaz from his communication station. "We've tried every conceivable frequency, format, and language." "They hear us," Maya replied, her dark eyes never leaving the main tactical display. "They're just deciding if we're worth talking to." On the 3rd day, at exactly 800 UTC, every communication device on Earth simultaneously received the same message. It came through in perfect, unaccented English, then repeated in every major human language. "People of Earth, we are the Kaldarian Imperium. We come to evaluate your species for potential vassalage within our galactic domain. Your world leaders will present themselves at your United Nations headquarters in 12 hours for initial assessment." The message wasn't a request. It was a command. General Harris, Maya's commanding officer, frowned deeply. "They've been studying us. The perfect language, the knowledge of our political structures. They've been watching for years. Or they have translation technology beyond our comprehension," Maya countered. "We shouldn't make assumptions about their capabilities based on our limitations." The United Nations General Assembly Hall had never felt so tense. World leaders filled the chamber, their usual political divisions temporarily forgotten in the face of this unprecedented event. When the Kaldarian delegation entered, a profound silence fell over the assembly. Their leader, who introduced himself as Supreme Overseer Zarvex, stood nearly 7 feet tall. His skin shifted between deep azure and violet, with intricate patterns flowing beneath the surface like bioluminescent circuits. His 4 eyes, 2 large primary ones and 2 smaller secondary ones, gleamed with an unsettling intelligence. "The Kaldarian Imperium has expanded across 12 star systems," Zarvex announced, his voice melodious yet undercut with harmonics humans couldn't naturally produce. "We incorporate promising species into our domain. Those with potential serve. Those without are repurposed." Maya, positioned discreetly as part of the security detail, observed how Zarvex's eyes catalogued everything. The architecture, the security measures, the reactions of the humans present. The 3 other Kaldarians moved with perfect coordination, as if linked by some invisible connection. "This isn't diplomacy," she whispered to Lieutenant Diaz. "It's reconnaissance." The UN Secretary-General attempted to welcome the Kaldarians with carefully prepared words of peace and cooperation. Zarvex cut him off mid-sentence. "Your welcome is irrelevant. We have already determined Earth's status. You possess valuable resources and adequate physical capabilities, but lack technological sophistication. You will serve as a resource cultivation world. Resistance would be inefficient." The Secretary-General's face paled. "Surely we can negotiate terms that—" In response, Zarvex raised one 6-fingered hand. Instantly, every electronic device in the building failed. Outside, the sound of falling aircraft filled the air. Reports later confirmed that, for exactly 60 seconds, all technology worldwide had ceased functioning. "That was a demonstration," Zarvex stated. "The Kaldarian Imperium will establish governance centers on each continent. Your existing governments will administer our directives. Resource extraction will begin in 7 days. Resistance will result in biological repurposing of population centers. The occupation began with terrifying efficiency. Kildarian technology was generations beyond humanity's most advanced systems. Their energy weapons could disable entire military bases without destroying infrastructure. Their shields rendered human weapons completely ineffective. Their neural suppression fields could pacify entire cities with a low-frequency hum that left humans conscious but compliant. Within 3 weeks, Earth's formal resistance had collapsed. Major governments now served as administrative proxies for Kildarian rule. Resource extraction operations, primarily focused on rare earth elements, water, and biological samples, began in earnest. But humans are nothing if not adaptable. In a basement laboratory beneath the ruins of MIT, Dr. Elena Takahashi worked feverishly. Before the invasion, she had been a leading researcher in quantum communications. Now she led one of the few remaining scientific resistance cells. "They're not invincible," she told the small gathering of scientists and former military personnel. "Every technology has limitations. Every biological entity has vulnerabilities." Maya Chen, now a resistance leader after escaping Geneva during the collapse of the UEDF, studied the data Elena had compiled. "You've found something." Elena nodded, her eyes bright with dangerous hope. The Kildarians use a sophisticated form of quantum entanglement for both communication and their neural suppression technology. It's elegant, but it relies on a very specific frequency band. More importantly, their biology appears to have evolved alongside this technology. "Meaning what, exactly?" asked former General Harris. "Meaning," Elena said, tapping her screen to display a complex waveform, "that their neural pathways are extremely sensitive to disruptions in this frequency range. It's like they've evolved to be perfectly attuned to their own technology, which also makes them vulnerable to precisely calibrated interference." Maya leaned forward. "You're saying we can hurt them with sound?" "Not just sound, a specific quantum resonance pattern. Their suppression fields work so well on us because our brains are fairly simple by comparison. But their own neural networks are far more complex and, consequently, more vulnerable to the right kind of disruption." Over the next 3 months, resistance cells worldwide worked to implement Elena's discovery. Using components salvaged from Kildarian technology and human broadcasting equipment, they constructed crude but effective resonance generators. The plan was ambitious but simple: a coordinated global attack on all Kildarian command centers simultaneously. The day before the planned assault, Maya found Elena staring at a photo of her family, husband and young daughter, both now working in a Kildarian resource processing facility. "We'll get them back," Maya promised. Elena nodded, not taking her eyes off the photo. "Tomorrow, the Kildarians learn what humans do best: adapt, overcome, and, when necessary, destroy those who threaten us." "They should have studied our history more carefully," Maya agreed grimly. "Every empire that thought it could simply take what it wanted from humanity eventually learned the same lesson." "And what's that?" Maya's eyes hardened. "That we're the most dangerous species in any room precisely because we never believe that we are." At exactly 300 UTC, the Resistance activated resonance generators in 200 locations worldwide. The effect was immediate and devastating. Kildarians collapsed in agony as their neural networks experienced what one survivor would later describe as every nerve ending simultaneously igniting. Their advanced technology, so integrated with their biology, became a liability as command systems failed or executed contradictory orders. In New York, Maya led a strike team into the North American Governance Center. They encountered minimal resistance. Most Kildarians were incapacitated by the resonance attack. Those who remained functional found themselves facing humans who had spent 3 months studying their weaknesses. In what would later be called the First Liberation, humans reclaimed control of 37 major cities worldwide. The Kildarian response was brutal but disorganized. Their technological advantage remained, but their command structure had been severely compromised. On the steps of the reclaimed UN building, Maya addressed a gathering of resistance leaders. Today we've proven that humanity will not be subjugated. This is just the beginning. We've learned their weaknesses, and they've learned nothing about ours except that we are far more dangerous than they assumed. High above Earth, aboard the Caldarian command vessel, Supreme Overseer Zarvex received reports of the coordinated attacks. His skin pulsed with dark crimson patterns, a sign of intense distress in Caldarian physiology. Adjust neural shielding to compensate for human resonance attacks, he ordered. Prepare orbital strikes on all resistance strongholds. His second-in-command hesitated. The resonance is affecting our targeting systems, and the humans have captured several of our technology centers. They're adapting our weapons for their use. Zarvex's four eyes narrowed. These primitives should have been easily controlled. How have they developed countermeasures so quickly? Unknown, Overseer. But preliminary analysis suggests we significantly underestimated their adaptive capabilities and technological ingenuity. In the command chamber's illumination, Zarvex's skin darkened further. Intensify resource extraction. If they cannot be controlled, we will strip this world and leave them nothing. But Zarvex didn't understand what he was truly facing. Humanity had done what it always does when confronted by superior force. It had studied, adapted, and prepared to fight back with every resource at its disposal. And now, armed with understanding of Caldarian weaknesses and access to their technology, the real war was about to begin. Humanity's comeback. 6 months into the occupation, Earth had transformed into something the Caldarians had never encountered in their conquests across 12 star systems. A planet-wide insurgency powered by rapidly evolving hybrid technology. In resistance strongholds around the globe, human scientists reverse-engineered Caldarian systems, combining them with Earth technologies in ways the aliens had never anticipated. Quantum resonance generators had evolved from crude devices that caused pain into sophisticated weapons that could disable Caldarian neural networks with surgical precision. Salvaged shield generators now protected key human installations. Most importantly, humans had cracked the basics of Caldarian communication systems, allowing the resistance to intercept and sometimes interfere with enemy coordination. The Lena Takahashi had become the Resistance's chief scientist, leading a global network of researchers who shared breakthroughs via encrypted quantum channels, ironically adapted from Caldarian technology. "We're outthinking them," she told Maya during a strategy session in the reclaimed CERN facility beneath Geneva. "Their technology is still superior, but they're linear thinkers. They expect technological progression to follow predictable patterns. They've never encountered a species that combines technology so creatively." Maya nodded, studying the holographic display showing global resistance strongholds and Caldarian control zones. "They're still winning conventionally. They control 70% of Earth's surface and 80% of our population centers. But morale among their forces is deteriorating. They expected to be harvesting resources unmolested by now, not fighting a war of attrition." General Harris, who had established a new command structure for humanity's fragmented military forces, pointed to several red indicators on the display. Their resource extraction operations are behind schedule. Their orbital vessels are showing power fluctuations. They're committing more resources to security than they'd planned, and it's affecting their entire operation. "It's time," Maya said decisively. "Operation Prometheus is ready." Named after the Titan who gave fire to humanity, Operation Prometheus was the Resistance's most ambitious plan yet. A coordinated global assault designed not just to damage Caldarian operations, but to fundamentally change the balance of power. The operation began with a seemingly routine raid on a Caldarian resource processing center in the former Australian outback. The aliens had grown accustomed to hit-and-run attacks and responded with standard protocols, diverting defense resources to protect the facility. What they didn't realize was that this attack was merely a diversion. The real target was in orbit, Using a modified SpaceX launch facility hidden in the Atacama Desert, the Resistance launched 3 vessels unlike anything humans had built before. Combining Kildarian propulsion technology with human stealth systems, these ships were invisible to the alien detection grid. Their mission? To infiltrate the smallest of the Kildarian orbital vessels and upload a virus designed by Elena's team. Maya personally led the space operation. As their hybrid craft silently approached the Kildarian vessel designated Target Alpha, she addressed her small team of former astronauts and Special Forces operators. Remember, we're not here to destroy. We're here to convert. This ship becomes humanity's first line of orbital defense once we're done. The boarding operation went precisely as planned, almost too perfectly. They encountered minimal resistance as they fought their way to the vessel's command center. It wasn't until they secured the neural control hub that Maya realized why. They'd been pulling forces out, she observed, studying the ship's crew deployment logs. They'd been quietly withdrawing personnel back to their larger vessels. Why? Asked Commander Rodriguez, her second-in-command. Are they preparing to retreat? Maya's expression darkened, or preparing for something that requires consolidated forces. The answer came sooner than expected. As Elena's team successfully uploaded their virus, a brilliantly designed program that would slowly transfer control of the vessel's systems to human operators, the main Kildarian fleet began to move. All 6 remaining ships positioned themselves in a new formation, their weapon systems powering up to unprecedented levels. They're targeting our major population centers, Maya realized, watching the tactical display with horror. They're going to glass the planet rather than lose control of it. On emergency channels, Supreme Overseer Zarvex broadcast his final message to humanity. Your resistance has rendered this world's resources inefficiently accessible. The Kildarian Imperium does not waste effort on unproductive acquisitions. Your civilization will be reset to prevent future interference with galactic development. Maya had seconds to make a decision. The virus upload was only 30% complete, enough to access some systems, but not enough for full control. Divert all virus resources to weapons and shields, she ordered. Forget the propulsion and life support. We need offensive capabilities now. As the Kildarian fleet's weapons reached full charge, Target Alpha systems suddenly came to life under human control. The vessel's main particle cannon, a weapon that could vaporize a small city, rotated toward the nearest Kildarian capital ship. Fire, Maya ordered. The beam struck with devastating precision, overwhelming the unprepared vessel's shields and cutting through its command section. The massive ship listed in orbit, secondary explosions rippling across its hull as systems failed catastrophically. The remaining Kildarian vessels immediately reoriented toward this unexpected threat, diverting their attack from Earth's surface. It was exactly what Maya had hoped for, a moment of confusion and divided attention. That moment was all humanity needed. Across Earth's surface, 200 resistance strongholds activated Elena's masterpiece, a planet-wide resonance field calibrated to the exact frequency that disrupted Kildarian neural networks. Unlike previous, localized attacks, this one leveraged Earth's own magnetic field as an amplifier, creating a pulse that reached low orbit. Aboard the Kildarian vessels, chaos erupted. Crew members collapsed or lashed out in confusion. Command systems executed contradictory orders as their biological components malfunctioned. 2 vessels collided, their precision formation dissolving into disorder. Maya used this confusion to maximum advantage, targeting the Kildarian flagship with Target Alpha's remaining weapons capacity. The vessel's shields held, but its attack on Earth was aborted as systems failed across the ship. On the flagship's command deck, Supreme Overseer Zarvex fought through the neural disruption with sheer willpower. Retreat, he ordered, his skin pulsing with patterns never before seen in Kildarian physiology, the biological equivalent of terror. The humans have weaponized our own technology against us. We cannot hold this world. The Kildarian retreat was chaotic but rapid. Within hours, the 5 remaining vessels had broken orbit, abandoning ground forces and equipment in their haste to escape the resonance field that had turned their greatest technological advantage into a crippling vulnerability. On Earth, the remaining Kildarian ground forces found themselves cut off from command and orbital support. Some fought to the bitter end, but many surrendered when faced with humans wielding adapted versions of their own weapons. Within weeks, organized Kildarian resistance had collapsed entirely. In what had once been the UN General Assembly Hall, now partially rebuilt following liberation, Maya addressed representatives from every surviving human government and resistance group. The Kildarians came here believing they were harvesting a primitive world, she said, her voice carrying through the hall without amplification. They judged us by our technological development alone, never considering that technology without adaptability is ultimately fragile. They brought sophisticated tools but inflexible minds. When faced with problems, they applied predetermined solutions. When those failed, they had no capacity to innovate. She gestured to Elena Takahashi, who stood among the other scientists who had engineered humanity's victory. We won not because we're stronger or more advanced, but because humans thrive on the edge of disaster. We're our most creative when cornered, our most determined when wounded, and are most united when threatened. From the audience, a voice called out, "Will they return?" Maya exchanged glances with Elena before answering. "We believe they will. But next time, they won't face a primitive species armed with sticks and stones. They'll face a humanity armed with their own technology, improved upon in ways they can't imagine." On cue, the main display activated, showing a live feed from orbit. Target Alpha, now fully under human control, had been joined by 2 more captured Kildarian vessels. Together, they formed the core of Earth's first true space defense fleet. "We've analyzed their navigation data," Elena added. "We know where they came from, how their empire is structured, and where their vulnerabilities lie. Should they return with hostile intent, they'll discover that humans don't just defend. We take the fight to our enemies." 6 months after the liberation, deep space monitoring stations, built using adapted Kildarian technology, detected a massive fleet approaching the solar system. 50 vessels, far larger than those in the original invasion force, decelerated into formation at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. Maya watched from the bridge of the renamed HMS Prometheus, formerly Target Alpha, as human forces prepared for what could be the final battle for Earth. "Incoming transmission," announced Lieutenant Diaz, who had followed Maya from resistance fighter to spacecraft commander. "It's on all frequencies, directed specifically at this vessel." "On screen," Maya ordered. The image of a Kildarian appeared, but not Zarvek's. This one's patterns indicated a higher rank, its eyes set in what humans had learned to recognize as a gesture of formal respect. "I am Grand Overseer Kalthor of the Kildarian Imperium," the alien announced. "I come with the full authority of the Imperium Council to address the species known as humanity." Maya straightened, her expression neutral. "This is Captain Maya Chen of Earth Defense Forces. State your purpose." The actions of Overseer Zarvex were unauthorized, Kalthor stated, using diplomatic language the invasion force had never employed. "The Imperium does not recognize attempted extinction events against species of demonstrated potential. The Council has reviewed the conflict data. Your species has proven itself unexpectedly viable." Kalthor's patterns shifted to what humans now recognized as the formal configuration for diplomatic proposals. "The Kildarian Imperium formally recognizes Earth's sovereignty and offers technological exchange rather than extraction. We request permission to send a properly authorized diplomatic delegation." Maya didn't respond immediately. Instead, she opened a channel to Earth Command, where General Harris and the newly formed Global Defense Council awaited. "They're afraid," Harris observed, his image appearing on a secondary screen. "They never expected to lose those ships, and they certainly never expected us to master their technology so quickly. This isn't respect, it's damage control." Elena, now Earth's chief science director, joined the call. Our intelligence suggests the Caldarian Imperium is less stable than it appeared. They've suffered setbacks in other systems. The loss here has weakened their position significantly. Maya turned back to Calthar's waiting image. The nations of Earth will consider your proposal, but first, a demonstration of good faith is required. All data on the 12 systems under Caldarian control will be transmitted to our vessels immediately. We will verify this information before any delegation approaches Earth. Calthar's patterns briefly flashed with what humans had learned was surprise, followed by resignation. Acceptable. After the transmission ended, Maya allowed herself a small smile. They came to harvest a primitive world and found a species that turned their own weapons against them in less than a year. Now they're negotiating with us as equals. General Harris nodded on the comm screen. What did your grandfather used to say? The one who fought in the resistance during World War II. Maya's smile grew slightly. Never invade a species that reads science fiction. They'd been planning for you for generations. In the years that followed, humanity's position in the galactic community transformed dramatically. Earth became not just a sovereign world, but a rising power, incorporating Caldarian technology, while innovating in ways the older species never considered. Other subjugated worlds within the former Caldarian sphere looked to humanity as liberators and allies. Supreme Overseer Zarvex, disgraced and demoted, was eventually assigned to a remote monitoring station on the edge of what was now recognized as human space. From there, he observed with growing unease as the primitives he had once dismissed expanded their influence across the stars. In his personal log, he recorded one final observation about the species he had catastrophically underestimated. The humans should have been easily harvested. Their technology was primitive, their world divided, their defenses inadequate. Yet they succeeded where 12 other worlds failed. I have spent years analyzing how this happened, and I have reached one conclusion. They simply refused to believe they could lose. And somehow, against all logic, that belief made it so. On Earth, in what had once been the Caldarian North American Governance Center and was now the headquarters of Earth's Interstellar Defense Force, a simple plaque hung in the main atrium. On it were engraved the words Maya Chen had spoken to the Caldarian delegation during the formal recognition of Earth's new status. You should have never challenged us, but we thank you for the lesson and for the stars.